there's more psychology and emotion to this move than there is any other move that we're going to make. We're excited for our first home. We're excited to expand our home when we're having more kids, right? It's not so much filled with excitement when they're making the transition to a smaller home or into assisted living or skilled care. So it takes a whole lot more massaging of the psychology piece of it, comforting and hand-holding and patience. We're going to be here. That's the way we've been here 50 years together now, right? We're going to be here. We're going to be around. We don't need you to sell your house tomorrow. So let's talk about 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years down the road. How can we be your person to help make this as smooth as possible?
Welcome to In Good Company.
Today, we have Jeff Bonham from the Bonham Group at eXp Realty. They have helped nearly 3,000 families buy and sell homes, and they've seen just about every type of housing market. And what really stands out is how focused they are on relationships, making sure their clients feel confident, informed, and taken care of every step of the way. Jeff, thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Hey, thank you so much. Love to be here.
Happy to have you.
Love it. Absolutely. Thank you.
Jeff, we're really glad you're here. First of all, tell us about your company.
Sure, absolutely. So my wife and I are business partners, Kathy, and she is a lot of times the face. She's the much better face, honestly, if we're quite honest about it, right? So she's the face of the business. But we've been around a long time. So combined, over 50 years of experience in the real estate industry. As mentioned, about 3,000 families that we've served. Most of that time's been around here. We're native from, Ozarkians. But we've moved around a lot too. So we've seen different markets, different climates, different economies that we've been through. And there's really, I would say, for most people out there listening, we've got three main divisions that we focus on. We try to specialize. So one of them would be the senior housing market and helping people make that very difficult transition sometimes, emotionally, psychologically, financially. We've got our regular real estate business that we do, traditional retail sales, buyers and sellers. And then we've got an investment division that focuses on teaching people how to build generational wealth through real estate diversification. So that's the three main focuses that we have, and try and just give back as much as we can to the community and take care of our people.
So families come to you, they are typically in a situation where they're just looking to have mom or dad downsize or maybe be in a little bit safer situation or less size, I'm assuming, if it's a big house or whatever. Is that majority of the folks that come to you?
I would say that's a fair amount of our business, yes. And I would, a little backstory, I would add more depth to that as to how we even got into that and how we got interested in it, is that we helped our own family make those transitions, right? So my mother has recently made the transition. Kathy's stepdad had to make the transition. My aunt had to make the transition. My grandmother had to make the transition. And as we watched all of these happening, we realized there was much more to that transition than just a young family buying their first home. There's a lot more that goes into it, from, again, the emotional aspect, leaving the memories, thinking about everything they've built in that family home for 20, 30, 40 years. Also to the financial ramifications, tax implications, healthcare, Medicaid, Medicare implications, and then also just the fact that they've got, they've collected years of memories, and they've got these cherished, whether it's heirlooms, keepsakes, pieces of furniture that are really important to them. Not your average mover can take care of that either. So we've really focused on putting together kind of a concierge team, if you will, that delivers this white glove service that understands all those different moving pieces, from mindset to the finances for the seniors that are either downsizing or looking at making that move into some type of assisted living facility.
Okay, so let's maybe segment this out. There's the realty part of it where you're trying to help them decide, like, what's the right fit for them. Maybe we should start there, and then we'll talk about the other services.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I think the way we've built our business has been focusing on the people and their needs first. We've never looked at this as a sales business. We've looked at it as a relationship business. And so that's why right now, if I had to put a number on it, 90 or 95% of our business is either repeat or referral-based business because of the relationships. And the first thing we want to do is really just take the time to get to know them, have a conversation, have a consultation, do a walkthrough of the property, and try to figure out where they're at and what their goals are. We've actually, surprisingly, we've told a lot of people now's not the right time if it's looking to sell or buy based on those goals. We don't feel like we have to pressure anybody just to put a sign in the yard, because we know in the end, if we take care of them, they'll take care of us someday, some way, right? So that's really the first thing, is just having the conversation and getting real clear on what they're trying to accomplish, and then find a solution, a customized solution for them based on those answers.
Okay. So when you say customized, there are probably different categories. What are those categories?
So marketing is one of them. I mean, obviously each property has different aspects to it. So figuring out the marketing piece of it. But again, from their standpoint, we don't just run automated plug and play systems. We have a lot of those options. We use a lot of technology. But again, we do a lot of things old school. So depending on where they're at and their financial needs or goals, we can tweak some of the structure to help it fit for them better.
Yeah.
Some people want to be really heavily engaged in the process. We welcome that. If you want to help, you want to play along, you want to contribute, you want to market it, great. We've got a plan where you can stay heavily engaged. If you want to be more hands off, we've got another strategy there where you just take it and you just, kind of put your hands up, say, go with it, run with it. Right, guys?
Right.
So there are different options within that. And then people have different feelings about even how they want it shown, how they want it marketed. Do we do video? Do we not do video? Do we do open houses? Do we allow people just to make an appointment and walk through anytime? Right? How do we access that? So we really will tailor it to their needs instead of saying, this is the way we do it, right? And you have to do it this way. Again, I feel like by meeting the people where they're at, that's where we're all going to get the best results, and hopefully turn that client from a client into a friendship, into a long-term relationship. Coming to the grandkids' weddings, hitting soccer games, being invited to those moments. I just got invited to a wedding in Florida in June from a past client, right? Her daughter is getting married and they wanted us to fly down for the wedding. And I thought you're doing something right when you get those kind of invites from a former client who's now become part of our family, if you will.
Yeah. So what you described feels very much like the realtor process. When you talk about the transition for specifically folks who are older and looking to make a change, how's that different than other realty groups?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it all, again, stems to sitting down and taking that custom, what we call needs analysis, and figuring out where they're at. Because we don't feel like we force them into a one box kind of size fits all. We can find out, are they making that downsize just to a smaller traditional home, single family home? Are they going condo? Are they going assisted living? Are they going into skilled care? What's their process with that? And once we really have a clear handle of that, we know whether or not we need to pull in some of that concierge team, right? There's so many people, as we've done this, we've discovered they don't understand, I think, the psychology of that move, number one. So sometimes we have to be a little more patient with that process to allow everybody, whether it be the children or whether it be the people that are making the move, wrap their head around it in the amount of time they need to understand it and not feel like we're adding stress by forcing issues, marketing, showing videos, promoting, people coming in and out of the house. So understanding that first, also addressing with them what their particular needs and goals are with their property, their personal property. What are we trying to keep? What's really important to you to take with you to the next place? And what kind of space do we need to have for those particular items? And then from there, a lot of people don't understand in general, whether it's the client or whether it's people in our industry, don't understand really the financial ramifications of this move. What can happen from a capital gains tax, what can happen from how it impacts their stuff with their government benefits, and how that can play a role into the estate. And once we get clear on that, we'll set up those proper conversations if we need to with the financial advisors.
So let's dig into that a little bit, because I think people may not know. I mean, they may understand that there's issues with capital gains, but they don't really understand how someone like your organization can help them manage through that. Like, what are the issues and what are the pitfalls that they need to look out for?
I think there's a couple of them that play into it. One would be what's their intention with the property in general. Sometimes they really don't want to sell. Maybe they feel like they're forced to sell, and we have to kind of work through that a little bit. But if they're not wanting to sell and it's more of an estate planning question is what they want to leave their children, we'll help guide them through that. Because let's say, for example, you want to leave your house to your kid. There's sometimes a debate, like, should I just give the kid the house right now and just redeed the house to them? Or should we make it part of an inheritance program? What should that look like? And they need to understand two things there. One is if they give the child the house and they just deed it over to the kid, that child inherits the original cost basis of that house. So if they bought that house 40 years ago for $50,000, that's what the government looks at if the child then sells that home later. So that spread is what becomes taxable. If it becomes part of the estate, it resets. It resets at today's value. So if they go and resell it. So that's number one. That can impact the inheritance plan and estate planning. The other one is being if they've had it for a long time. Our market's been amazing for the last 5, 6, 7 years. There's been a lot of gains in asset valuation. And if they've made more than a certain amount of money in profit on that house over these years and they're walking away with cash, it can give a big tax consequence too. So are there some strategies we need to put in play from a trust standpoint or anything along that line to do it? And then the final one was really how it impacts their medical benefits and some of the recapture that can happen because of these assets if they're using some government aid. So again, the estate planning and getting some of the financial advisors and attorneys involved possibly to structure things the right way before it's needed to be addressed is the plan.
So what's the best practice for folks who are wanting to make sure that they don't wind up with a big tax consequence from capital gains?
Well, I'd say, first of all, talk with us, but besides that is getting clarity on what they're looking to accomplish. Everybody has different goals, so I can't really give an answer to that. But if they're looking at protecting their assets, protecting their wealth, we need to go beyond some of the traditional concept that, again, I'm not an attorney, so I don't want to play one here on the podcast, right? But a lot of people think a will is good enough, and a will is not. A will does not allow for the residential transfer of this property. It doesn't really protect the legacy of the estate. Basically, a will pretty much opens up and just directs probate. So it still goes into probate. There's better planning that can be done if you're thinking ahead through trusts and things along that line to preserve the wealth better, to make sure it's directed where you want to, whether it be charity or children or whatever it may be. So again, trying to get ahead of it is the best thing we can. Sometimes it's not an option. Sometimes I'm sure you guys have run into it where there's a situation where there's maybe a loss of some mental capacity. So making sure, again, we involve the right people that are involved with that family, and that family decision is really critical because that child may never have really looked into or understood some of these implications. They've never thought about it. And so we need to, again, pull in that dialogue and say, do we need to look at helping set up that trust? Do you have the power of attorneys in place? Who's the decision maker at this point in time? And how can we do it? Are there other heirs we need to be pulling into the dialogue, or are you the trustee? And we had a deal not too long ago, probably 2 or 3 years ago, where there were 18 people that had to be involved in the decision-making process because it wasn't set up properly. And trying to get 8 or 9 kids and their spouses to agree on the process, the finances, it's difficult, to say the least.
Yeah.
So the sooner you can get us involved, I would say the better, right? Even if it's 3, 4, 5 years down the road that you're anticipating making this move, we're good with that. Let's start the dialogue early. We'll stay in a relationship. We'll help coach you through this. And then when you make it, it's just a much smoother, easier transition. That's actually what we did with my own mother. We took about a 2-year process to figure out where she was going and what we were doing with the house, what we were doing with the personal property. My brother and I being involved in the conversations, and it made it when she was ready to finally mentally make that move and go into transitional housing. The stress wasn't there, right? So the earlier we can get involved, I would say, is the better. But again, going back to it, capital gains, understanding values. What do we need to do to protect that? Is there a way we can offset some of that or shelter some of that? That's really where we'll then pull in the financial advisors, maybe pull in the attorney.
Okay.
And make sure that, again, 'cause I don't want to play that guy, right? I know enough to know the conversations and questions that we need to ask and have so that everybody makes an informed decision.
Okay. So who else is on the concierge team?
The movers, for sure, because again, people have a lot of pride in these memories they've made. These, whether it be little collectibles, or whether it be key furniture items that they've got. I love movers. I work with a lot of movers, but also a lot of those movers aren't really white glove type service movers. it's a different game usually. After you've had 30 or 40 years of collecting something, you want to protect it.
Yeah.
You want to take care of it. It's nice stuff. So the movers are a big part of it. Financial advisors are a big part of it. We've got a couple different CPAs we lean on whenever this comes about. Same thing with people that handle the Medicare and Medicaid questions. Obviously, if they have a rep, we try to deal with that rep and get them involved. If they don't, then we have that conversation. And then companies like yours, are we in a situation there where some of that transition has to happen as well to make this from the house to the skilled care? So wherever we need to pull those people in, we find the resources and pull them in.
Yeah, we've when we've talked to a couple of attorneys about this, it seems like the window to move that property to an individual, and they're looking to potentially go on to Medicaid, it's like a 5-year window, I believe, without them going back and looking at those assets.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I don't have it off the top of my head. Honestly, that's where I rely on those guys, because things are changing, it feels like, all the time with the underwriting, including the Medicare and Medicaid and regulations. And I'm not even going to try to keep up with that. That's why we have the guys that we have in our corner to lean on.
Yeah.
But it's part of the plan. That's why I really suggest the sooner you can get us in the conversation, the better.
So you act as, they have the concierge service you have, but you're selling the home, potentially selling the home as the realtor. Are you also a buyer broker as well at the same time?
Yeah. So if they're looking at just buying a smaller home and going on that, we're happy to help with that. We do that a lot. Make sure we coordinate kind of the double move, the double closing, so they're not homeless at any given time.
Right.
That's a lot of people's fears. How do we structure it? Especially a lot of times with seniors, they've maybe been there for a while. They've got some built-in equity that we can do some creative financing with to give them more time to make the move comfortably and not have to try to do everything in 24 or 48 hours at closing day. So again, we work with some great lenders that have those programs that allow them to make those transitions slowly. But yeah, we'll do that. We'll help them the buyer broker piece. We also do some referrals back and forth to some of the assisted living communities. There are a lot of great ones here. So we'll help make those introductions if that's the route they're going. And if they're not going all the way to assisted living, but they're just wanting to go into rental product, rental house, and some of the 55 plus communities, we've got great relationships there too.
What got you into this kind of area?
I would say really personal, just the personal experiences we went through with the family.
Okay.
And then looking around, and the more we talked about it with friends, cousins, whoever it might be that have been through the similar experience, we picked up on, lack of a better term, a lot of frustration that they'd experienced in their moves. And they felt like they were just kind of thrown in this box. It wasn't cohesive. They didn't have somebody running point really in the process, especially that understood the asset valuation piece of the house. Because, let's face it, for most people, that's one of their biggest assets, right? Some people have great savings in 401ks, but a lot of people, their home is their nest egg. So we want to protect that. And unfortunately, a lot of people have not spent the time to study the intricacies of this piece and only going through it ourselves. And I think the finances are great because I'm a numbers guy, so that's my wheelhouse mainly. But with Kathy, she is so relational. Like once you're in her world, you're never leaving it. It's what she says, right? And she's so true about that. I wish she could make it here today, but we've talked about why she's not here. It's our daughter's birthday. But with the relationship piece of it, we noticed all the stress that was coming about of it. We noticed the tears that would come in these conversations of them leaving these memories because they could see their little daughter, Sally, still playing in the corner or in the sandbox or whatever it may be, and realizing there's more psychology and emotion to this move than there is any other move that we're going to make. We're excited for our first home. We're excited to expand our home when we're having more kids, right? Or our job has given us that ability to buy a new home. It's not so much filled with excitement in a lot of cases when they're making the transition to a smaller home or into assisted living or skilled care.
Yeah.
So it takes a whole lot more massaging of the psychology piece of it and comforting and hand-holding and patience. And we're going to be here. That's the way we've been here 50 years together now, right? We're going to be here. We're going to be around. We don't need you to sell your house tomorrow. So let's talk about 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years down the road? How can we be your person to help make this as smooth as possible?
What would you say is your best success story?
I would really probably say my mom, honestly, at this point, because it's so personal to us, first of all. But we've experienced it quite a bit in other avenues where we learned a lot. And this was the first one where it wasn't really necessarily under rapid duress, right? To where we helped my aunt, but she was starting to get early onset dementia, right? She had a lot of physical health problems, lack of mobility. So that transition was very difficult, right? Same thing, my grandmother ill, cancer, those kind of things that forced decisions fast. With my mother, we were able to really plan this out and make sure we found the right facility for her that had the right opportunities within that facility. She didn't want to have to move 10 times. So we're somewhere that has on-site transitional living available. Can we get on a wait list now? And let's see what happens with a wait list. What do we need to do with the estate, with personal property, with pulling in her advisors in the trust company and start talking about estate planning, right? Where's she going to be at the sale of her house? What is she going to face capital gains? All of these different things. So it was about a 2-year process. And when she made the move, she was ready. We had sold whatever needed to be sold. We took about a year to sell it slowly here and there. Downsized already, figured out what was going to go where in the new place once the wait list availability happened. And then we were ready to get her moved in there and settled. And then we sold the house. So she didn't even have to experience the emotion of strangers, right, walking through her house, seeing these people coming in, kind of taking over the house, right?
Yeah.
She didn't have to see that.
Right.
She'd been there for 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
So it just went off like clockwork. And she couldn't be happier to this day. She's been there for a year and a half in her new place and loves it. And I don't think she looks back now.
Yeah.
But it took time to get to that point.
Yeah, that seems like a running theme throughout a lot of the podcasts that we've done, where they're talking about how to best take care of someone as they're getting to that stage. And it all came down to making decisions early rather than waiting until decisions were forced on people to make fast ones. Because typically, in my experience, even in the healthcare side of things, fast decisions are usually the worst decisions because they're out of speed and desperation. You don't have the convenience of making choices. You have to just whatever can be quickest. And that oftentimes isn't the best choice long-term for that person, because they wind up in a situation where maybe it's not the facility they would have picked, or the situation that they wanted. Maybe they were forced to sell a house that they were hoping to leave as as to their families, and that pre-planning part of it, and that's, I think, good to highlight. For sure.
I appreciate you sharing your side of that as well. I don't want to put any fear in anybody, because it's not the purpose of this conversation. However, at the same time, what I have noticed, whether it's our industry from an agent perspective or other industries that are out there, when you're making rapid decisions, some people can be predatory. They can make pressure feel so real and so intense.
Yeah.
Bullying, whatever you want to call it, trying to force a hand. And I've seen, especially when we've dealt with some of the seniors, that kind of situation, they need an advocate. They need somebody that's there to help them, guide them through that, and kind of stand in between them and the other party sometimes. And if they don't have that, that's where we see these horror stories sometimes that come out.
Yeah.
So we try to avoid that. And we also work with, on a sidebar, you talked about the concierge team. We also do have available a relationship with a patient care advocate. So if there's somebody that wants third-party help at the hospital or at the home, wherever it may be, we can pull this person in on a consulting basis as well, who's a nurse by trade that specializes in this exact advocacy thing from the healthcare standpoint.
Yeah.
So I feel like we have a lot of the moving pieces addressed at this point. If we find another one, we'll add it on, because we're passionate about it. But
absolutely,
I love what you said. The earlier, the better, and try to get ahead of it. Do you see, I'm going to ask you a question. Do you see in the process that this happens, the conversation's happening too late because they just don't want to admit they need to have the conversation? I mean, is it one of those things where they say, no, I'm good. Like, I've got this, I'm fine. And then it just catches up.
I would say the majority of the time the kids see it, the mom and dad doesn't. And, they're trying to respect mom or dad's boundaries and wishes and that sort of thing, even though they're declining rapidly. And something, it's got a expiration date on it. And oftentimes the parents don't, or parent doesn't see it the same way. And so we run into this a lot where they'll call us and be like, if you can talk mom and dad into it, and we know they need it.
Yeah.
And sometimes it is one of those situations where they're in the hospital and now everybody's scrambling because, cognition, or there's some serious medical issue going on. And they're like, mom's not going to be able to go home. There's just no way. Or dad's going to be able to go home. Or mom's not going to be able to take care of dad at home by herself. And the stress and strain to the family is pretty palatable. I mean, it's pretty stressful. And not that those situations aren't stressful anyway, but the difference is that we've seen folks that were a little more open to some pre-planning. They already had some home care kind of people coming. There was, an estate plan in place. They already had a plan for where they wanted to go. If they, most of the folks that had maybe the best experience were folks that were on traditional Medicare and a supplement rather than Medicare Advantage plan, because they could pick wherever they wanted to go. Like they weren't limited to just a couple of facilities and whether those facilities would or could take them. When you have Medicare and a supplement, you can go literally anywhere, anytime. And some that made those decisions found that they could go to the right facility, had plenty of time in those facilities. We could transition them home well. We could see them as much as we needed to in their home. And their outcomes were much better. And it was just a lot less stress on the families. The ones that kind of push back and hold off as long as they possibly can, those are the ones that, you're playing catch up really fast, and it can be tough.
Well, it's interesting, even the way you talk about the Medicare plans and the supplement plan. We ran into that with my mother with the Advantage plan, right? And so things you didn't know till you know, right? And without having some of those early conversations, we wouldn't have been prepared for that. There's no way.
Yeah.
And there's such a demand on space too. They're building more and more every day, it feels like, around here.
Yeah.
To accommodate this need as we have this aging population. But the wait lists are real.
Yeah. I don't think the general public really understand how much limit on beds available. They really think, well, there's a nursing home, and so many homes are full. Some aren't, but but I don't think they realize how many people would normally be in a skilled facility, but a home care company is keeping them out of those skilled care facilities. And there really aren't enough beds for all of them if the home care agency wasn't trying to help support the families. The other piece of that is that families are picking up the slack huge in our society right now. And some of them are going through burnout, and they're trying to hold it together, and it's really tough out there sometimes, especially when they try to go the road by themselves. Because sometimes by the time they come to us, they're at their wits' end. A great resource that I always like to start with is a group called Senior Age. And they have a host of services they do. They run all the senior centers in the area. And these are great resources. These are great people. Their hearts are in the right place. They're local in this community. And so oftentimes when somebody's, struggling, for a first step to, I'll often lead them that direction and say, call Senior Age, ask them what services. They have tons of services that are free, available. And, they get funding to get some things covered. They'll refer out things that they need assistance with other agencies and that sort of thing. And being plugged into that group, oftentimes they'll keep a list of vendors for a variety of things, kind of like you have a concierge group. They'll have a group that they use, and that even for your business would be, I don't know if you've hooked up with them or not already, but
somebody I'm going to now.
But
I've
I would
heard of them, but
definitely
I've never sat down and had a personal conversation.
We have 5 pillars that we talk about to keep somebody in their home. And the first one is that they live in a safe environment. And so this is kind of where you come in a little bit, is that home the right fit for them anymore? Maybe we should look at, transitioning to a different, more safe environment for them, because that's super key. And I think if people like step back from the situation and realize there's lots of choices to keep someone out of a skilled nursing facility. Yeah. And those levels, not necessarily just independent living or, residential care or whatever, just even in a house that's designed just a little bit better could make a huge difference for someone being able to sustain there and, long term.
Yeah, 100%. And again, kind of thinking about where people are at is what I'm seeing in the real estate space. You're talking about private equity, right? And coming in and making an impact on the healthcare. What I'm seeing in the real estate space is senior housing's become a word. It's become a thing, right? Yeah. So people are selling classes on senior certification now, and you go through, 6 hours and you're certified, right? And they put these logos and these banners on it. They haven't done anything with it. They haven't experienced it. They haven't sold it. And maybe they will. And I love them for it. I love people being learning based. So I'm all for that, right? But doing it to have a catchphrase or an extra tag item to go make another buck, that's one of those things that's kind of rubs us a little bit wrong. And we've always focused on, like, one of our main pillars that you talk about is people over profits. And so if we focus on taking care of the people, the profits come. I mean, we've got to make a living, right? We've got to take care of ourselves, our kid, our family. But at the end of the day, that happens by default.
Yeah.
When you do the right behavior. So we see a lot of people coming in. One other thing that's happened really dramatically in our space in the real estate investment side is what's called wholesalers. And wholesalers are basically going in, they're cold calling, cold texting, cold emailing, cold mailing all day long, and they target seniors. A lot of them do. And they're looking for that predatory opportunity. Some of them have great ethics, and they're trying to create a win-win. I love those guys, right? But a lot of them are not. They're looking to get that $200,000 house for $100,000, flip it to somebody for $130,000, make their $30,000 and walk away. And they're not educating and consulting the people on what they have. So,
boy,
yeah, it's really amazing to watch, and it's sad to watch. Now, there are needs where it's a great fit. The people are really at their last end. They've been sick. They haven't made payments for 6 months. They're about to lose the house in general. You try to figure out a win for everybody, and they've got to make money. The owners got to make money. So you figure out a way to do it. But if it's not transparent, that's where I have an issue.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
As long as transparency there, the family's on board, the people are on board. I mean, that's actually a service we even offer too, is that if you need us to come in, it's easier for us just to buy your house, we'll buy it if it's right. But we'll talk about what all that means. We'll show you the money. We'll show you where it goes, how it's spent, what it would look like if we marketed it traditionally instead. Right. So, but if it's right for you, fine, we'll buy it. Right. But I want them to be aware out there that, there are so many people doing that right now. I mean, I'm getting emails 2 or 3 a day from wholesalers that are tying up property. They're telling them they're buying it from the homeowner thinks that person's buying it. They're writing a contract. Those people have no way to pay for that house. They're hoping somebody on the back end like me comes along and writes a check. But they may take that house off the market for 2 more months trying to find an end buyer. And they continue maybe not making payments, or they continue going downhill and getting in a tougher situation financially. So I would just caution people, to be careful of if it sounds really too good, like, hey, I'll give you 100% money in 7 days. Reach out first. Like, let's have a dialogue about that.
How much of what you just described has to do with the housing crisis in the United States?
Well, it's really, I think it's been there for a long time. This process has been around as long as I've been in the business, but it was more of a cottage industry before. And now it's really become one of those things where really because of the internet, because of social media, everybody's a guru, everybody's selling a class, everybody's teaching people how to go make fast money. So you have a lot of people now that have gotten into this field and they really don't know what they're doing with real estate, with valuations, they could care less about the person on the other end of the equation. They're just looking to make 10, 20, 30 grand fast as many times as they can. And that's really tarnished this experience for a lot of people and the reputation of that side of the business. So I don't know that it's so much the housing market, except for the one thing I could say, I think it's made it easier for that segment of buyers, if you will, not really buyers, but people that are putting under contract on their end to make money, because we've had this run up in values over the last 5 or 6 years. Mm-hmm. Some of the older people don't know or realize their house is no longer worth $150, it's worth $300.
Yeah.
And so they think it's worth $150. And when these people come in, they tell them, I can give you $150, $160. They think they're getting a win.
Yeah.
And they don't understand. So I think it's made it easier for that segment of investor to find deals where they make money.
Yeah.
Just not in an ethical, transparent fashion. So there's probably been a little bit of a feeding frenzy in it. And I think what we're seeing right now, honestly, is we're seeing with some of the affordability issues, we're seeing some people having a hard time keeping up with things. And also right now, the state of Missouri last year in this last round basically said every county is going to raise taxes by 30% regardless of assessments, right? So tax bills are real to people that have been there for a while.
Yeah.
Their tax may go from $1,000 to $2,000 or $3,000 all of a sudden. Fixed income, that makes a difference.
Yeah.
So again, like you've said so many times, and I've tried to stress, let's talk early. Let's get ahead of this. And if you get a phone call like that from some guy just wanting to buy your house, not saying it's not the right fit, might be perfect, right? But get a second opinion.
Yeah.
Give us a call and we'll walk you through it. And if that's the best deal for you, we'll tell you, go with them. Use that person. But if it's not, let's protect yourself along the way.
Do you have a opinion on reverse mortgage?
Do I want to share it?
It's the $1 million question.
I think again, it's about education, about understanding what it's doing. I think there's a place for them. I think there is a place. I also think there's consequences people don't really understand with the estate. You can get upside down. The heirs can get caught in a situation with it. If everybody's on board and they understand it, they use it wisely, fine. I personally, depending on their equity basis, a lot of times we'll pull in more of a local bank or a local lender. We'll talk about other strategies, maybe to tap into some equity tax-free that they can even reinvest in stocks or do whatever they want to do with that equity and still access it, versus get in a situation where they're locked in to this reverse mortgage. So for some people, I know they've used it well. I'm not the biggest fan in the world of them because I think there are other strategies that are more fiscally responsible and better for the long-term estate.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Jeff, you emphasize relationships. What does that actually look like day to day with your clients?
For a number of years now, we focused on more of a quality over quantity approach. We're not here to fit everybody. We don't try to fit everybody. So we basically, if we don't have the capacity at this point in time for something, we're going to let you know. We run a small team. There's 4 of us on our team. So there's only so many we can really serve today, at least. But we focus on those relationships. So people are in our world. They're getting phone calls on a consistent basis. They're getting our emails. They're getting our mail. We're going to ball games. We're going to parties with them. We have client appreciation events where we invite them all to it. Because we feel very blessed and thankful that we have these people in our worlds. We got our tribe, and we don't try to serve everybody. So I'll give you a quick example of that. Years ago, when we moved back, we used to own multiple franchises, real estate franchises in Florida, Memphis, and New York before we moved back home. We kind of went on this world tour for a while. And when we moved back, there was a lot of expectations of how we were going to build our business to look like it did on this bigger corporate kind of perspective. But our daughter was 2. And we made a commitment at that point in time that we didn't necessarily want to walk away from the income, but we wanted to have a balanced life. We wanted to be more about our family. We wanted to spend quality time with people that we cared about and people that cared about us. And so we very rapidly realized that if you can't respect that approach in our life, then we're just not a good fit. We'll introduce you to somebody else. But I'm going to tell you openly, I can't do Wednesday at 6 o'clock. I got to get my daughter to softball practice or whatever. And if you respect that, we're probably going to start off on a better relationship to begin with. Same thing. I hope they reciprocate with that and they let us know what they've got going on and invite us to the events. We want to be part of their lives. We want to be part of their world. And like I said, with that wedding we've got coming up in Florida, what a wonderful opportunity to hop on a plane and see a girl that we met when she was probably 7, 15 years ago or whatever it was. And now she's getting married. And they haven't even lived in Missouri for 6 or 7 years, right? Yeah. And they reached out to us and invited us down. That's cool. Special, right? Yeah. So I think that's a great example of what we try to do and really integrate. And Kathy is the glue for that. I mean, her heart for service and compassion and just, as she said, once you're in my world, man, you're never getting out of it. And she really believes it.
That's cool.
That's awesome. Yeah. If someone is in the market to buy or sell, what are the biggest misconceptions with today's market?
Well, I think we've had some shifts happen in the last probably 12 to 18 months, whether it be interest rates, stabilizing values. They're not shooting up the way they were. It's a market where I tell people right now we're really in the middle of 3 different real estate markets. So you've got properties that are either out of the market, meaning simply they're overpriced. And as a real estate agent, I can tell you how I know that is if we list your house and in the first week nobody shows up. It's just out of the market. And we need to make those adjustments quick. You can't just throw a dart at a price anymore and get it. 2, 3, 4 years ago, you could pretty much put a price tag on something and get it. And some sellers still have that conception in their brain like, oh, it's this awesome seller's market. I've got all this money. Slow down there. All right, let's talk about it. Let's look at it and let's look at the market. Because once you do that, real estate agents right now, because of the movement in the market, we're a little bit ADD. So we're looking at what's hitting the market now. And if you don't get in that wheelhouse on day one, we almost put you in the back of the mind like, they're overpriced. It's not going to work. I'm going to take my clients to the next one. And we just look at all the new ones coming on board. And we don't necessarily revisit the older ones, even though an adjustment may have been made. So that's number one. We don't want to be out of the market. The second one that's easy to identify is in the market. In the market, we're still getting offers in 14 days. If it's priced right, staged right, looks right, it's clean, smells right, all those things, you're still getting great offers. But you're having to be realistic on the pricing. So pretty much what I've experienced is middle range on price, top third in condition, those are selling. The other one that's really tricky right now that we're seeing, the third market, is what I call no man's land. And no man's land, a lot of sellers are getting stuck there right now. And that is where they think they're doing something right. And a lot of times their real estate agent does too, or they don't know how to address these metrics. We've studied metrics for 30 years now, right? So we really look at these things. And what we've seen is we don't have showings for 2 weeks. We need to readdress things. But more importantly, where they get stuck is they're getting foot traffic. People are coming through. They're coming through the house, so they think we're doing something right. We're in the market. We're going to get something eventually. But if we have 8 or 9 showings and no offers, we're in no man's land. Mm-hmm. And what that means is we're close enough, either on price or condition, but we're not hitting it. So our job of getting feedback is critical at that point, because a lot of people just let it ride. Like, oh, surely we'll get an offer any day now. But out of those 8 or 9 people, half of them have bought something. Mm-hmm. So we need to find out, why did you buy the house down the street? I don't want to just keep selling somebody else's house, right? Mm-hmm. So as a team, we decide at that point, do we make a price adjustment? Do we get some of our crew in here to fix it up? What do we need to do to get you back positioned in the market? But a lot of people are getting stuck in that no man's land right now, and you're seeing them sit for, like, the average days on market right now is over 2 months. So you're seeing that climb, and it's because people are getting stuck there. That's the reality of it, and they aren't addressing it.
Got one more for you.
Yeah.
What's one piece of advice you wish every first-time home buyer knew before they started the process?
I would say, honestly, find a good consultant in the real estate space. We get a lot of them that we end up helping that have tried it on their own, or they've tried it with an inexperienced person. And I love people getting in our industry. I'm not bashing that. I started, I was new at one point. So I think that's great. But make sure those people have a good team of mentors around them, because there's so much involved with the financial side of things, with the property condition, with even just understand the nuances of school districts and neighborhoods that can make a long-term impact on what happens next. Not only this house, but it impacts your next decision whenever you're ready to make that other move. So like we were even talking about the senior transitions, get in the conversation early before you need to. Make a plan, sit down with somebody that's patient enough to say, okay, let's put a 6-month plan together. Let's put a 12-month plan together and help you get it to where when you're ready to pull the trigger, you're ready to pull the trigger and you find what's right for you and your family.
It's ironic. My daughter's closing on a house this Friday, as a matter of fact. And I told her the exact same thing. She's telling me the laundry list of things she was wanting. I was like, honey, you may not even be in that home when you have your first child, And she's like, well, it has to be like this and that. And I'm like, this is your temporary home.
Yeah.
It's not your forever
starter
home.
house.
That's for sure.
That's your starter home is what we
Yeah.
say. It's your starter. And I really don't know anybody personally that bought that first house and they're still in it after 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
Whether it's job moves or opportunities or expansion of family or sometimes shrinking a family, whatever it may be, but that stuff happens. And just getting something you can afford comfortably and still enjoy your life. You don't need to be house poor. Right, all your money is going to your housing. We want you to be able to enjoy your life still, and build up your other things in life first, and then we'll move from there.
Yeah, and it's funny, the same things that you talk about for a first-time buyer seem similar to somebody who's trying to downsize because they're on a fixed income, and you want just the right amount of space and just the right amount, living conditions so that they can live there long term and that sort of thing. But we have seen some people who've made that transition successfully, but it was like a year in the making. It seemed like.
I think to do it right, I would say at least get us involved in that part on the transition of housing a good year. Because again, you're going to really figure out what you need, and then that gives you time to visit the different facilities or other houses or 55 plus communities and look at the space and get comfortable with it. I think the biggest challenge for my mother at first was just she was used to the big kitchen, right? Mm-hmm. She was used to the big open living room, great room kind of setup. And it's not that she needed that, 3 times a year, 4 times a year, family would all crowd in there. But, you go into her kitchen now and it maybe fits 2 people at a time, maybe, right? But it's got everything she needs. And she's now loves it. It takes her hardly any time to clean it when she cleans. And she knows she's got help if she needs it around the corner. She can call up to the lodge or whatever, and they can send somebody down for maintenance. Yeah. So she's embraced it. But at first, again, it was very tough to figure out some of those things. And she probably looked at a half dozen facilities at least to get comfortable even with that. And in the beginning, it was an adjustment period.
Tough road.
Yeah. But I think had we had to make that move fast, had she waited till the decision had to be made, I don't think she'd be nearly in the peace of mind that she has now.
What separates a good real estate experience from a great one?
Everything boils down to communication, 100%. I mean, whether it's the agents on our team or whether it's our clients or even these conversations here, I used to be not as understanding of this, honestly, right? I'm like, I got to figure it out. What I've realized that none of us have it figured out. Let's just get real about it. Let's talk about it together. Let's figure it out. I can't read your mind. You can't read mine. And if we address that and frame the expectation up front that this is like we're dating and this is almost like we're going into a marriage together, we need to be able to talk about anything and everything. And from that, everything else can be solved and addressed. Where I guess good is that the result happened. You sold the house, you bought the house. It's good. Yeah. You got your end goal. Bad is you didn't obviously get your end goal and you even got it and you hate that agent or you cuss them out or you spread stories about them. I've heard all of those things. Wow. But all of them happened because it wasn't a partnership, right? It was either somebody selling something, somebody acting as if they had all the answers, somebody not having all the answers, and just not really getting open about it. And I'm not going to tell you we have all the answers because we don't. We've been like 3,000 transactions. I don't feel like we know all the answers yet. I'm constantly getting surprised. We've got we didn't really talk about this, but we've got roughly 200 agents on our team that cover all of Missouri, Kansas. We're in 5 states now. 4 locally that really service our personal clients. But we've built this organization. I'm getting calls from them every day asking me questions, and I'm learning something almost every day that I'm like, man, how did I not? Right. But the key with that, I think, as a professional, and I'm sure you guys are the same way, is if I don't know the answer, I don't make up an answer. It's not about my ego. It's about serving the client. So I'll be honest with you. I don't know.
Yeah.
Let me go find out for you, though, and I'll get back to you.
Yeah.
And that's really the difference maker in my experience.
One of the things that we talked to, we had a gentleman on just recently that he sold insurance. And one of the problems that he was pointing out was that there's a lot of insurance being sold in this area by people who aren't in this area. And some of it's, third party marketing groups and that sort of thing. And you mentioned the wholesale guys and that sort of thing. Is there a way for them to tell if they're dealing with a good or bad agent?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, to me, it's about ask your own personal network for introductions and referrals. A lot of people are going online. The tech game is being played. Sometimes people just dump money into it, but they really don't have the experience or the knowledge, but they've got the cash. And so they're driving in, they're capturing leads, they're reselling leads. They just, you're going through maybe 3 or 4 parties before you get to this end agent.
Yeah.
Sometimes that end agent's great. We've got a lot of great agents in our community. But statistically, 87% of agents fail within 3 years. And there's a core of 10 or 20% of us that really make a living selling real estate. So I would just look at, have they been in the business for a while? If not, that's fine, but who is in their back corner? If they're new, I love giving, we bring in new people all the time and support them into our industry, but we literally support them. They call me on my cell phone, like I said, almost every day, and we're guiding them through, and we're doing trainings and Zoom calls and making sure they have people in their back pocket when they don't have the answer, they can get that answer. So does your agent have a team behind them? Who is that team? What's the team's experience? But really, referrals and introductions are huge. If your cousin had a great experience, ask them who it was.
Yeah.
Start there, because it's easy with digital footprints to put whatever story people want to put out there and maybe look more seasoned or successful than they really have been. So be careful. Again, it's one of those things, if it looks really, really good, just do a little more digging.
Yeah.
You can definitely go through, there are some processes. You can talk to the real estate commission, the Missouri Real Estate Commission, if you want to see if there have been complaints filed. You can go through Better Business Bureau, but a lot of agents aren't part of the Better Business Bureau. The brokerage may be, but not the individual agents, because we're all 1099 contractors. People don't realize that. They think we're employees for XYZ company. We're not. We're all independent contractors. So most of them aren't members of the chamber. They aren't members of Better Business Bureau. But if there's been an issue, the Real Estate Commission will know. So you can make that phone call or send a little email off as well about that. But start with the relationships that you already know, people that have had success, put it out to your network. And of course, if it's in our area, just give us a call. We'd love to help you out, right?
Yeah.
If it's outside of our area, we've been doing this long enough that we know people in most major markets that we've met at these trainings, conferences, built relationships with over the years, that we're happy to make an introduction there as well for somebody.
That's great.
Wow. At the end of the day, when you're helping people through these big decisions, what do you love most about it?
Man, there's so many things really when you look at it. It's so individual to see, but it's got to be just the relationship piece. Coming out of there, started out as maybe somebody at church introduced us to somebody else just real quick, and then here you are 5, 10, 15 years later, grabbing lunch with them or having a coffee with them or seeing their kids grow up and getting invited into their lives. That's really the most important piece of it. That's where the joy comes in. It's the buying or selling of a house. That's just a step in the journey, right, of our lives. And we're blessed to be invited into that part of it, but we're more honored to be included thereafter.
How do people reach you guys?
Best way really is we've got 2 ways. I would say by phone is one. So we'll give you that number. It's 417-501-4771, or go to findspringfieldrealestate.com.
Awesome.
Fantastic.
Jeff, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate that you're kind of focusing on the senior housing space, and trying to help families make those transitions that are very stressful.
Yeah, indeed. Thank you, and likewise for all your support. We appreciate it.
If you enjoyed today's conversation, make sure to like and subscribe so you never miss an episode.
And we'd love to stay connected. Follow us on YouTube, Facebook, and on Instagram at In Good Company Elder Care Podcast.
You can also find us on X, formerly known as Twitter, at IGC Pod, and on TikTok at IGC Elder Care Podcast.
Thanks for tuning in to In Good Company. I'm John Ray, and I've been joined by my amazing co-host, Spencer Ernst. Special thanks to our executive producer, Alex Wallace, for helping bring this show to life. Until next time, take care, and remember, you are always in good company.